Hello everyone, and welcome to another session of creative building. This time, I'm super inspired and I want to build a steampunk factory on this plateau behind me here. So, let's get right into it. And now that I bought myself a new microphone, you get better audio as well. Why am I shaking so much? That's so weird. Anyways, since this piece of land is fairly flat already, I'm going to skip the terraforming part and go right into creating a base. Now, my reason for choosing this specific color palette with all the orangey colors and of course the spruce is because I wanted to make it stand out from the hill, so I thought choosing a color that contrasts sharply with the hill would fit, and I think it does. Now, this color won't represent the entirety of the build. If it did, it would be a little bit exhausting to look at, so the rest of the walls are going to be made more out of wood, and it's going to kind of transition from this color to a darker, more warm color. Another swift jump forward in time, and the walls are complete. Next, I'd like to top it all off with a roof. And don't worry, we'll get to this part and those circles over there in a little bit. After a much longer period of time than I was expecting, the roof structure is now done, and I've also gone ahead and detailed the walls somewhat with these little arches in between each of the pillars, although I haven't done here, I just realized. Anyways, what I want to do now is I want to finish off the exterior detail save for the factory parts, which we will get to a little bit later. But before we do either of those things, I remember promising that I'd get back to this section here and these mysterious circles on the ground. So what are they? Well, this, as you might have guessed by the nature of the build that is currently started here, is going to be a little bit of an office part, kind of jutting out into the factory and, of course, over top of the entranceway. Now, these circles over here are a little more complex. I imagine them to be poison-filled or chemical-filled vats that kind of branch outside of the house, and that's why these walls are blank, these three here. So there'd be a tube coming out of here, going into here, and going into there, and currently the cyan terracotta is just a placeholder. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be the full design or not, but we'll get to those, like I said, in a little bit, after we do the rest of the building details. Stage 1 of the exterior detail is now completed, and you can see there's not that much difference. I've simply just added some reinforcement and detail to the roof. I've completed the side of the office, the pathway, and the wall behind the office, and that's pretty much it. Otherwise, the exterior detail that isn't factory related, that's just the building structure, is complete. So now, let's move on to stage 2, which of course is factorifying the place. Let's stick with that. I know I'm making up words, but I hope you get my meaning anyways. So, it's been a few days since that last segment, and while I didn't have time to record, I had plenty of time to build, so I finished factorifying the exterior of this factory to a much greater extent of detail than I originally intended. So let's take the time to explore the changes briefly before we move on. Straight away, you'll notice that we have two giant chimneys sticking out of the roof now, and that these two large storage pallets are occupying the front yard, one of them with redstone components and one of them with, well, more redstone components, and for some reason, mushrooms. Now, if we head over to the back, you'll see that I have completed these vats. This one's kind of got a little bit of residue in it, but these two large ones have a lot of goo that is probably fresh. And over here you can see the absolutely ethical means of disposal of extra goo, and you can see it's making a little bit of an impact on the environment, but you know what? The health inspectors rarely come out this way, so they can get away with stuff like this. Now, if we turn our attention away from the questionable waste disposal practices of this factory, we still have a large cavernous expanse on the interior that currently contains no malignant machinery that would manufacture such slime as to make the environment all gooey like that. So, for the final part of this project, I'd like to tackle this interior and hopefully finish it for the end of the episode. So, I've spent some time puttering around in here, and I think I've got a pretty good layout going. Now, of course, to finish this build off, I'm going to add some detail, because of course, you know, gotta love detail. Detail's fun. Hold on, where's the zoom key? There we go, for dramatic effect. With the last of this mysterious goo in place, the interior detail is now complete, and that means the build is now complete, so let's go on a brief tour. Starting off with the entranceway, where I have my most favorite view of the build. I just love the way when you step in it kind of opens up and allows you to kind of see the little details on the inside all at once. Moving along and going up the stairs leads you to the furnace room. Now, I still have no idea what function these furnaces hold, but I think they fit the area nice and they give a reason for the chimney, so it's pretty cool. Here we've got some coal piles with some supplementary carpets kind of looking like coal scattered everywhere. And then up here we have our loft area with a little platform to allow us to peer into the larger tank, and then a pathway over here to the office, which is pretty bare bones. It's got a fancy lamp. As you can see, it's quite poorly maintained with the cupboards covered in cobwebs and a slightly plush chair. Now there's one more thing I want to show you before we finish off, and that is this tank here, namely the way these walls connect to the block. As you can see, that they don't actually connect to this tank, and that's thanks to this handy-dandy item called the Debug Stick. Now you can get the Debug Stick by entering this command here, and basically what it allows you to do is change the state of blocks that have multiple states. For example, campfires, you can make them waterlogged, you can put them out, and you can change their direction. Or here in this case, you can change the way walls connect to blocks, which is super useful in cramped situations like this where you don't necessarily want the wall to connect to all textures, or perhaps you don't want stairs to connect to each other. So check it out, it's really useful and I highly recommend using it. Also keep in mind that this requires you to have cheats enabled, so make sure you have that when you create your building world. Anyways, that's it for this video, and I really hope you enjoyed, and more importantly, I really hope you took some kind of inspiration from this to go build something like this in your own worlds. Anyways, thank you very much for sticking around. I'll see you next time, and have a fantastic day. Goodbye.